Welcome back to the first episode of season 3 of Health, Wealth, and the Ultimate Self. I hope everybody is doing well, and I'm excited to jump on here and really dive into a really good opening to our third season. A season that's going to be much more kind of focused, vibrant, powerful, and on point to kind of what our mission and vision is. Today's episode is all about kind of helping you achieve your ultimate self and really what might be holding you back, some tips and some ways to kind of look at how do you address them. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants to have happiness, everybody wants to feel grateful and joy in the world around them. And again, the truth of the matter is a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are really struggling, stressed out, they live in fear, they live in anger. And then they do all these other things around them in their life that cope with that anger and fear, whether it's drinking, smoking, eating, sex, gambling, you name it. Those are just temporarily helping somebody kind of get out of a state that they're in versus, finding better ways to find that state. So, as a healthcare provider, we own an integrative healthcare clinic. Again, it's you see these patterns come in, and we have more of the here's what your labs look like, here's the nutritional recommendations, here are kind of the exercise recommendations to achieve your goal. And I know there's, to be honest, frankly, we've missed probably the area that is just as important as any diet, and that's what's between the ears of that individual. So again, I'm going to tell you my quick story. It's not about me, it's about helping and serving you guys. But again, I had a back injury that was pretty substantial this past year. And I had to take a few weeks to a couple months from literally doing what I love, which is serving people. Again, didn't grow up with a ton of money. And so kind of going through, and again, I went to a very enlightening event. If you haven't done it, I definitely recommend it. Unleash the Power Within. Tony Robbins, again, most of you know that giant of a human, and he's got just of a giant of a soul in terms of helping and serving. And the one thing that resonates with Tony and how he approaches it, there's just no bullshit, there's no BS. It's, we all tell ourselves stories of why we are the way we are, and those stories sometimes prevent us, and often really prevent us from having the urge to change. They're our safety net. So again, back to my back injury. Didn't grow up with a ton of money. So when this back injury hurt, again, this weekend really made me realize kind of why I kind of got less excited about kind of just doing self-development, continuing education, and all these things around us. For me, I was always able, I didn't have money, but I could physically power through things. So when I lost that, I think subconsciously it really kind of rattled me. I also pride myself on trying to be the best at taking care of my health, being a good role model for our patients. And so when that kind of wasn't there, or it was not even taken away, like that's how I saw it. It was like it was taken away, it was gone, but it was, hey, look, this is a test. This is a time to stand up and be a role model. But I didn't view it that way. And again, like I did view it that way, but I didn't. It's still inside. It was still deeper. But again, this weekend made me realize that, hey, look, I always kind of turned to like physically I could power through things, whether it's, hey, I could physically build the house versus pay somebody to buy it, or hey, I could build and do this project myself versus find, a way to be resourceful in other ways. So moral of the story, it kind of led to a year that just was not near as productive for myself. Again, like usually we're doing continuing education, coaching courses, and other things like that. And so got to this thing where like, hey, look, I need to look inward because I'm like, I know this is not the standard I want. This is not the standard that I want to have. It's not what my wife and kids deserve. They deserve me at a 10 out of 10, not a 4 or 5 out of 10 when it comes to energy, emotion. But again, I was more like living in frustration, living in anger, which is a very low energy state. And so again, it makes it really, really easy when you're in that to not really have like the appreciation for yourself, do decisions, have a higher standard. So again, I lowered my standards this past year. But again, this weekend, it was really empowering, and I want to kind of share some of that with you, because I think when you start to understand maybe why we do the things that we do, it allows us to stop them in their tracks and have an action step to move forward with it. So I think the biggest thing is we all have fears of, common fears, right? We're fear of not having enough money, not having love, not being smart enough, right? Those things often drive us. But again, if we look all around, like there's people that started out with nothing and made anything they wanted with their life. So that fear, again, is not a rational fear. So that's the first thing is, hey, even if you've had health incidences in the past, again, hey, there's no fear that they have to continue to happen to you. So I think the one thing that really stood out was, when people get into a low energy state, it's also much harder to create the avenues out. So kind of the first aspect that we went through is just, hey, you need to be in a high energy state from the moment you woke up. And then if you do go to a low energy state, it's not that it's not bad to be angry or frustrated. But again, the longer you sit there, that becomes your reality. But if your reality is primarily 95% of the time in this high energy state, you're going to thrive, you're going to grow, you're going to have growth, and you're going to have forward momentum. The other aspect that I realized, again, I was really guilty of, again, I want things to happen. Like my brain goes fast. If you've ever talked to me as a patient, like when I start going, my brain's going. Again, when I have like growth and ideas, like boom, 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 they go like that. Now for me, where I would get frustrated, like, okay, I want them to I want the action step to be just as fast. I want it to happen just as fast. And then when it doesn't happen, I kind of start to look backwards, like, why didn't that happen? So the other kind of thing we talk about is it's like the idea of like, you want to drive where you look where you want to drive, the direction you're in. So many people look to their past, right? We look to kind of what was something we can never change. We give that attention and it serves us at no ability. Now, if you're looking back and having gratitude and appreciation for something, that's great. But a lot of times people look back, have resentment, anger, disappointment, embarrassment about something that it's in the past. Like you cannot control that. So you're watering that thing that you didn't like, you didn't enjoy, that didn't make you feel good the more you think about it. And again, what you think about or what you water grows. So again, is this realization like, hey, these things that I didn't do because I, wasn't feeling as like optimistic or wasn't outgoing, I kind of started to focus on those. So again, same thing. When you start to drive a path forward, this is just this daily routine of picturing where you want to go, right? So write it down. The more ways you bring your different senses into it, the more your brain gets to actually feel it and start to understand that it's almost living it before it happens. And if your brain starts to feel it, it starts to believe it, and you start throwing things in place that make it happen. So it's really, really powerful and very, very simple. And again, we've talked about it in the past, but having a morning routine, having a start for your day, a way to kind of scrub your day and set your day forward the way you want is incredibly critical. If you hope your day happens the way you want it to do, you're destined for stress and failure. If you plan your day the way you want it to happen, things start going and you start getting momentum. And that's the biggest thing that's the first thing kind of for me coming out of this conference was like, hey, I know a morning routine has been helpful. But again, I was using kind of my low energy state to try to launch it off the ground. And so I had to realize I needed to be a better, higher energy state, couldn't be from me going to the gym and getting stressed out and working out. Because again, that I should be able to get in that high energy state at any moment of every day. If I don't, I'm more likely like, I'm gonna go grab that extra cup of coffee I don't need. Again, I'm using a chemical substance to raise my state. So in the last 4 or 5 days, I've maybe had, I think last night was the best hours of sleep. These days are long, but they're really, really impactful. But my recovery, even though I'm only sleeping 5 to 6 hours, my recovery my recovery overnight on my Whoop was like 20 to 25%. Less sleep, my recovery is at 65%. I'm having more hours in restorative sleep by kind of putting these things in place, which is huge. So not only when you start to do this, there are physical measurements about my brain waves and sleep patterns that are kind of showing up even in the first 3 days of just putting action into place. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying this to brag us, but so many of my patients and the people we work with, I want you to know this is a huge part and can be part of something that we implement for you. If you're listening, this is a huge part that you can, again, start to develop. If you want to develop your mental health and your ability to be strong within, this is huge. I think the other part that was really powerful was understanding, if we don't feel confident of being able to solve problems, then we're always looking for outside solution. And so when the outside solutions or the environment is not there, what is the emotion that you're going to feel? You're going to feel defeated. You're going to feel like this is never going to happen. Now, it doesn't mean you have to know the answers for everything, but you know that, hey, look, if I don't know the answer for something, I can get a mentor or somebody to help me reach that goal, right? And again, still the power is within you. That was very, very critical, because again, it's like, I don't know if I need to go learn it. It's like, stop it. One of the big things to say, like, you cut a check for speed. So if I need help with like a business aspect, or if I need help with learning, like, this is why we go to seminars and courses. I want to learn a part about brain health, or like the very specific part of the brain. People spend decades writing a textbook on that. And then people spend years developing a course to take all that information and give it to you in a 2-day weekend. So this is just one analogy, but it's like, I haven't done like a good course for a while. And again, we used to do them every 2 months. Now we have kids, but at the same point, there's so many ways, whether it's Audible, coaches, mentors, you name it, the right providers, they're all around us. And again, there's a time and a place when you don't have the skill set and you need it, to hire a nutritionist to help you learn how to eat and have better patterns behind that. If you don't know how to exercise or lift a weight, instead of getting stuck and never going to the gym to start, we hire a personal trainer, hire somebody that you value and can hand the torch over so you can now be empowered by it. But the moment we start to realize that we hold all the power, our environment holds none, right? Our environment will give us moments of kind of challenge, but that's it. Right? So the moment we start realizing that life happens for us and not to us is one of the most freeing moments. And the moment you realize you can do whatever you want is critical. So that's the one kind of key thing I want to pass on. I want to take a couple more minutes to understand, I kind of just pass a few things on that I noticed myself. And again, we can go deeper and into this, but I'm excited because I realize, when I work with patients, we'll be like, hey, look, you're not feeling bad. You want to lose weight. Your energy is really, really low. And I'm like, hey, we need to start eating meat, vegetables, fruits that are clean, get better blood sugar control. And the one thing is like, how long do I have to do this for? And for me, it's a lot of time, I'm always like in my head, like, try to like minimize it. I'm like, but in the reality, it's like, hey, look, how long should you do this for is a question. Do you love yourself? If you love yourself and you really are tied to having this outcome, it's not about how long you need to do it for. It's like, you need to do what makes you feel good and thrive versus going right back to the old habits. So the beautiful part, habit's a habit. I was listening to a really good Audible book for a few minutes on the drive home. 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And again, I love the analogy because I think this is really important and a way to kind of get people to understand what it's going to feel like when you start something new. But it's going to also give you an idea of the hope once you get moving, how it can go. So he talked about, hey, look, we want to go to the moon and take a spaceship to the moon. No idea how to do it. Put a plan into action. And then finally, when that plan was ready and the spaceship was ready to launch, you have this aircraft, this spaceship that was full of fuel, right? Ready of potential energy to drive you to this goal or your target, right? And this new habit is up here on that moon that you're trying to reach. Now, this Earth has a gravitational pull. So when you first launch, most of your fuel that's going to be consumed is going to be consumed leaving that orbit of that initial habit or your comfort spot, right? You're going to spend the most time and energy getting away from that initial habit. But again, as you get further and further away from the pull of that old habit or the Earth's orbit, you're getting closer and closer to that new goal becoming your new habit. So even though initially the energy to get there and launch is more consumptuous, but once you start flying and getting away from that old habit, it's much easier to sustain and maintain your momentum towards your new habit and your goals. And then what starts to happen from there is the stuff that you start to see that falls into place, whether with your health, your physical movement goals, your relationships, is going to be extraordinary. Again, I love that explanation. I like that kind of visual for me, because again, like, this makes sense. I'm going to use it. I'm going to try to help kind of be a better communicator with patients because of this, because I can be very nerdy and autistic almost in my head trying to explain biochemistry, but I think I'd rather scrap a lot of that and be like, this is where me serving patients and our clinic serving patients goes to the next level. This is where our podcast can go to the next level. Our support and education and mentorship goes to the next level, is that when we serve and we understand how to remove and walk people through all their obstacles, not like, hey, we gave you the understanding, but there's other obstacles that we need to be better about. If not, hey, are there other coaches or providers that we can help you with and find? Lastly, I want to kind of say one thing too. Proximity is power. So many times, and again, this is something that struck home because I see it. I'll have a couple come in, or I'll see a wife that's just like, or a husband. It's not a sex thing, but you'll see somebody come in and they're like hurting and they want change. And then even in the words and the context of the way they speak, you can tell that the person at home may not be the most supportive or necessarily believe that they can change, right? So certainty is really a beliefs we have that we're really strong and we're confident in. And at a time of change, you need to be able to have your beliefs change to believe you can do things. So if we get somebody to a high energy state, or you are trying to do the right things, let's say you have an exercise goal and you're like, boom, boom, boom. And we've all experienced this, I guarantee you. Or you're like, hey, you go tell a friend, like, man, your energy's booming, you're in a really good mental state, and then you go tell somebody a dream or a vision you had or something you want to go do. I want to go backpack through Greece. And if you tell the wrong people, or you're surrounded by the wrong people, too often, if their state is low, they're going to try to pull you down. They might criticize your goal or your state or things about it and pull you with it. And doing what? Pulling you back to earth, pulling you back to the old habits you don't want. When you've spent so much energy and you're like, that rocket ship is revving, you're ready to fly off. So again, sometimes you have to protect your dreams for the right people. And you need to find those people in peer groups, new social circles. And again, whether it's not the right spouse supporting you, I'm not saying to go walk away from them, but maybe bring them to this visit with us, or bring them to your visit so there's a better understanding. Or maybe there's an aspect to healing that relationship, and this is a vital part to overall just growth and healing. Your social circles, like, look, I got lots of great friends I grew up with. They'll always be my friends. But again, like, I don't drink, don't smoke. And again, if they depend on me to do those things to fit in, like, they don't smoke. But let's say like that's a core value that makes me kind of drive. Hey, look, like, I can still be friends with them, but am I going to spend the most time with them? So kind of your inner circle, we're really a reflection of the people you surround yourself by. So if you're here and you're wanting to grow to a 5 here and you want to be this business master and a serial entrepreneur, again, surrounding yourself with somebody that's never had a successful business makes no sense. Surrounding yourself with people that don't have the health values of you don't make sense in it being your dominant peer group. So don't be afraid to fight for yourself, because I'm telling you, this is critical. Because again, if you spend this time and energy to be in this high-powered state, and you go around, you're like, hey, what's going on? This is your, like, what you come, you see your friends and they just gossip about stuff and the news and just how miserable life is, and you're trying to be something opposite of that, it's going to be harder for you to keep your flight path away from Earth, or your trajectory to your new habit, or your new goals, and the life you're trying to actually create and envision for yourself. So your state is everything. Lastly, I said that was the last thing, ways to get into state. Again, smile. Posture, right? We know when people are stressed or trying to be protective, like they flex. So staying safe, like, and again, it makes sense. We sit all day, we're on a phone all day, all these things wire posture, but that posture in itself makes us feel more, again, vulnerable. So very simple ways. You can just pull your shoulders back, palms forward, head back, stand up nice and tall, open posture, nice big breaths in, diaphragm breathing, where you pull the diaphragm so tummy goes up first, then chest, smile. Again, picture a sound, picture something you want down in the future, not in the past. Again, picture as clear as you can, what it sounds like, smells like, moves. Is it coming to you, going side to side? Is the sound that you hear from one side or the other? The more you bring your brain into what you want to vision, the more real it's going to become and the more driven towards that goal you're going to be. So whether it's health, whether it's financials, whether it's mental strength, whether it is, again, relationships with loved ones, your intimate ones, children, I'm telling you, this is very powerful because, again, you can have these little resets throughout the day. And the goal is, if you feel yourself getting to a negative state, have a 90-second window that you get out of it. And it's not with a drug, it's not with a substance, caffeine, it is your body. So again, you move, you can jump, get your lymphatics going, but something that gets your energy up. And again, if you need, the more you need to do this, it's fine. You need to wire your brain. So you might need to do it every hour, every couple hours. But again, I'm telling you, this one thing has been instrumental for me, like overnight, caffeine out. Don't need it. I mean, who knows? I was probably consuming 400-600 milligrams of caffeine a day. And again, I'm like just sipping on it in the morning, sipping on it at lunch, not thinking what I was doing. But again, it's like, man, my vibration was low. So again, use what you have, because the beautiful part when you know that you can get yourself into a high state, again, it reinforces that you have all this power to change your energy and those around you too. And again, make sure you tell your dreams to people that dream with you, not against you. Make sure, again, you surround yourself with people with values or goals or habits that you admire and that you're trying to, again, be at or at least the same level. And again, maintain your high state. Don't stay there for more than 90 seconds. And understanding that the hardest part is getting to launch, but once you launch, that initial effort is going to become easier and easier once you get out of that initial pull back to that old habit. Lastly, I have a little tuning fork here. And again, I was just literally trying to find a chord to run the camera for our podcast. I'm like, you know what? This actually might be a good example. So you hit this, it's vibrating. And this, like, say you put something that's not vibrating against it, it's gonna suck all the vibration out of it within seconds, right? So this is that low energy state person. This is the high energy state person. Even though they're trying to vibrate and be in high energy, this low energy state just absorbed it and sucked it and neutralized the energy between them. Now picture if you had two of them, the sound's gonna reverberate off and the vibration and the energy is gonna stay maintained for longer between the two. So again, I just thought it was a really interesting visual. I'm like, you know what, we see it all around us. When energy is high, whether it's with ourselves, with basic physical principles of sound, it's a common truth that you go around things with energy, you keep your energy. You go around things that lack it, again, it's easier for you to lose it. So I just want to have a jump on a quick start to season 3 and really just a hopeful lifting start to our new season. And I look forward to having many more, and I hope this is helpful. And again, if you've never been to a Tony Robbins event or listened to him speak, again, it's a starting point. If you need any help, mentorship, and where to get started, feel free to message us, email. On our Instagram, you can send a message at Health, Wealth, and the Ultimate Self, and I'd love to help point you in the right direction. All right, take care.